Hey everyone, welcome to Simplilearn's YouTube channel. Today we'll be discussing the Tableau projects. Before we begin, let me tell you guys that we have daily updates on multiple technologies. So if you are a tech geek in a continuous hunt for latest technological trends, then consider getting subscribed to our YouTube channel. And don't forget to hit that bell icon to never miss an update from Simplilearn. Now without further ado, let's get into the agenda for today's discussion. So today we'll be dealing with the Tableau project. So the first dataset that we will be using for the Tableau project is based on COVID-19 data. Followed by that, we'll have another project based on the airline data. And finally, the third project will be based on space missions data. Now let's begin with our first project. So in this first project, we'll be dealing with the COVID-19 dataset, and using that dataset, we'll be getting some insights. So what are those insights? Those are, what are the total number of confirmed cases in different nations? What are the total number of recovered cases in different nations? So we'll be using the map chart for these, and we'll be finding out the insights about how are the cases going on in the current situation or in the current date or year. Followed by that, we'll also look into the insights of the confirmed and recovered cases in India as well. Followed by that, we'll enter into the next query where we'll find out the trend line of COVID-19 in the international level, like how it started, how is it going on. And moving forward, we'll create a group of Indian states and we'll find out the COVID hits there, and then we will discuss about the death rates. So highest death rates at international level and the least death rates in the international level. Then we'll enter into the next segment where we'll find out the variation in COVID-19 cases around the world. And then finally, we'll discuss the future of COVID-19 in the international level. Basically, we'll create a trend line which will give us the forecast levels of the COVID-19, like is it going to increase or is it going to decrease, or what's going to happen in the near future. So I hope I made myself clear with the queries or the insights that we're going to take from the COVID-19 dataset using Tableau. So without further ado, let's get started with the Tableau. So we are on Tableau right now, so we'll be using an Excel data file. So we'll be using the COVID-19 data file. So this particular data set is available on Kaggle, and if you don't find it there, don't worry, we'll be attaching that particular data set in the description box below. You can use that as well. Now let's just select open to get connected with that particular data. So you can see that we just got connected with that data, and there will be some minute errors in the data, or there will be some problem with the data which the Tableau might identify, and when it identifies something messy with the data, it will show you an option. Maybe you might want to use the data interpreter, so I prefer using that. So whenever I see that particular option on the left hand side, I better use it for the safer side, for being on safer side with the data. And let's also select these, not a problem. Yeah, so the data got clean now. You can see that over here. So to do that, you can also check the review results. So when you click that review results option, then you'll get into this particular Excel document, which will help you with the changes made to that data set. So you can see that the orange color one says the data is interpreted as column headers or field name, and the green box suggests you that data is interpreted as values in your data source. And now you can see that. There you go. So now we'll get back to Tableau. Now you can see that the data has been interpreted successfully by the Tableau, and everything is as expected by the Tableau. Every data element in the dataset is as expected by the Tableau, and it's really fine now. Now we'll check the columns what we have in our dataset right over here. So we have the serial numbers, observation dates, province, state, and country or region, last update, and confirmed deaths recovered. So basically these three columns will be telling us the confirmed cases in that particular region, country or state, and the deaths happened in that region, country or state, and recovered rate, and the last update, when was the last tested done, the latest tested done, and in which region, and what's the observation date, what's the observation results on that particular date, and the serial numbers, etc., etc. So we have the clear understanding of a data set now. Let's get started with the first sheet, what we have over here. So according to our first query, we had to find out the total number of confirmed cases in different nations. So for that, we might want to select the country or region and then the confirmed from measures. So for that, we'll be selecting the map chart for this so that we have the data shown in a more appealing format. So now we have the bluer color of map on our screen right now, where the darkest color shows the maximum number of cases confirmed, and the lighter ones represent the lower number of cases confirmed. Now let's make this look a little more interesting. So for that, we can select the edit color options, and inside that, let's select the red to green diverging. Yeah, this is it. Red to green, white diverging. And as you can see, the colors are a little opposite right now. So we want the greener one in the lower side and the red colored one on the higher side. This should be good. So let's select OK and apply and OK. So you can see that the red color now represents the highest number of cases, and a lighter red one here, you can see a little touch of red, which shows that the India's got some good amount of cases as well, and in the Brazil and etc., etc. So even Russia has a little light green. So this shows it also has some good amount of cases, not completely green though. Yeah, so this is how it looks. Now let's rename the sheet as confirmed cases. At the international level. Now, according to our second query, we are supposed to find the total number of recovered cases in different nations. So now let's create a new sheet for that. Now for that, we'll be selecting the country or region, and then we'll be selecting the recovered, and hover over to the show me icon, and let's select the map for that. Now you can see that we have a lot of recovery happening in India. So according to the stats, we get to hear that the virus which we have in India is a little, kind of harmful than comparatively what we had in China and other states of the world, or the other nations of the world. So yeah, we have a good recovery rate in India. Now let's rename the sheet as recovered cases. International level. Yeah. So I'm naming these sheets separately because we'll be using these sheets to create a dashboard at the end. Now let's get into the third query. What we have right now is find the total number of confirmed cases in India and what are the total number of recovered cases in India. So for that, let's create a new sheet and let's select country or region and confirmed. Now we'll be selecting the text table, and we have the complete data set right now. We have all the nations over here. So what we are looking for is just India. So for that, now we'll drag the country or region into filters, and inside this you can see we have an option of selecting India. Now let's search for India. GHI. So we have India over here. Let's select apply and OK. So we have the total number of cases in India. Now we can drag the state or province into rows, add all members, So in India, we have all the states, and so all the states have their own confirmed cases. So this is the total confirmed state or confirmed count in India. Let's rename the sheet confirmed cases in India. Similarly, let's find the recovery cases in India. Let's create a new sheet for that. Rename it as recovery cases in India. So now let's select the country or region, recovery, and then let's close the show me icon, and now let's drag the country or region to filters, then none, select India, apply, OK, and let's drag the state or province here, add all members. Yeah, so you have the text chart here which represents the total number of recovered cases in India according to the state wise. Now, yeah, this looks okay, but we can make it look a little more appealing so that it's more visible and understandable, readable. So we can make that happen. So let's make a duplicate of this and recovery cases as well. Now I would like to change the confirmed cases in India into a pie chart which looks a little bit more readable and understandable. Let's select the entire view so that we have a bigger pie chart and a little bit understandable or readable. Let's increase the size a little bit, and let's select the label and select the show mark label so that we have all the numbers over here. We can even select the province or state and drag it into detail, so we have the state's name as well, or should we tag it into label? Yeah, now the recovered into label again. Yeah, there you go. We have the state and we have the confirmed number over here. So this is how we can make the data look a bit more appealing and understandable. So we can see that Maharashtra has a larger number of confirmed cases. It's the biggest state of India. So maybe, yeah, that's true. And now we'll get back to the duplicate sheet of recovery cases in India. And now let's make it look a bit more appealing by changing the way the data looks. So for this, we can select the packed bubble option. Now we can see the packed bubbles which show the recovery states happening in the Indian states or the recovery cases. So you can see that everything is looking in blue color, a bit difficult to understand. So for that, let's drag the province or state into color so that we can have different colors for different states. Yeah, now this is good. We have the country name and state name. This is fine. Now we can make it a bit more readable by dragging the recovered icon into, or the recovered pill into the label. So we have the count of recoveries happening in that particular state and that particular country. Now it's a bit more readable. Now we have Maharashtra at the leading place. We have a good recovery in Maharashtra. Yeah, that's fine. Now let's get back to the presentation mode and see our next query. So can we forecast a trend line of COVID-19? Yeah. So how it started, how is it going on? So we can do that. Let's get back to Tableau again. So let's create a new sheet. We have the new sheet over here. Let's rename that as trend line. Yeah, the sheet got renamed. Now let's select the observation date from the dimensions since we're making a trend line. So let's keep it observation date, or you can even select the last update. Let's go with the last update. Now let's select the confirmed pill from measures. Let's select a line chart, or we can do that from here as well. Okay, so we're not getting the line chart, so there might be some problem with the date format over here. So we have to change the data type of. So I think this might be something with the date. Yeah, let's select the date fill and change data type to date or date and time from string. So you can see we had string first. So now it's changed to date and time. Now we'll be getting a proper trend line. So now we have it according to the year, so we can make it according to quarter, and even in the form of months. And so if you see this a little bit readable, you can keep it that way, or you can even change to days. So yeah, I think there is some problem with date and time value. So let's keep it in the form of months. It's more readable in one screen. So yeah, it's good. Let's remove this. So we have the month update. Now let's go to analytics to create a trend line, and you can select the trend line and drag it over here and select the linear option. So you can see here we have the trend line over here, which reads the R squared and P values and confirmed, and we have a formula for that. So basically Tableau creates a formula to create a trend line, so which is 5.280 exponent to the power of 8 into month of last update. So pretty complex formula, yet understandable. So this is how you create a trend line. So according to the trends, we have January, February, the quarters, Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, and this is the first month of January. So here it is. So in January we find one. Okay, this is in billions, maybe, yeah, maybe even trillions, who knows. But based on the data we have in the last year, we have a decrement of the confirmed cases in January. So it's basically indicating that corona is basically or slowly decreasing. That's a good sign. Now let's try to find out the trend line for India. Let's duplicate this. So for that, let's drag the country into filters. We have the filter option, and let's select all. No, not all. We might want to select the Indian icon. Yeah, let's select apply. Okay. So now we have the trend line for India. Let's kind of rename it. Yeah. Even you can see a gradual drop of corona in India as well. So the number has decreased in India as well. In the earlier year, we had a lot of cases above 30 crores. Now we have nearly 20 crores. That's a good sign in India as well. Now let's get back to the presentation mode and try to select the next query. So according to the next query, can we group Indian states and find COVID-19 hits? Yeah, we can do that. Now let's get back to Tableau for that. Let's create a new sheet and let's rename it as grouped. So the sheet got renamed. Now we're going to select the country or region or province. Now for that, you can see the create option over here. Now inside that, let's select the group. Now we have to create a group of Indian nations. So select Andaman and Nicobar, hold control, select Andhra Pradesh. Now let's select a couple of states we know which are in India: Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Don't forget to hold the control key for this, or else the options might vanish. We have Bihar, we have Chandigarh, we have Chhattisgarh, we have Dadar and Nagar Haveli, Dayu Daman, we have Delhi. Yeah, we are going to just select a couple of states just to show how group can be done. So fetching all the states in this particular column would be a little difficult, or we might even miss a few. We have Gujarat, we have Haryana, we have Islamabad, Jammu and Kashmir, Jharkhand, we have Karnataka, we have Kerala, Ladakh, Lakshadweep, we have Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Nagaland, we have Punjab, we have Rajasthan, we have Tamil Nadu, we have Telangana, we have Uttar Pradesh, we have West Bengal, and let's rename the group as Indian States Group. Let's select apply and OK. So after selecting the apply option and clicking OK, so we can have a new pill in the dimensions section that happens to be Indian States Group. So what we're gonna do is drag that pill into detail option so that we can have the results on our screen. So there you go, the states what we selected are right over here, all the Jammu Kashmir, Ladakh, and Punjab, Maharashtra, Gujarat, etc., and our Lakshadweep and the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Right, so we have all the states of India right on our screen. Okay, let's expand it a little bit. Scrolling on Tableau is a little bit difficult. I don't know how to select the default option for the screen. Yes, we can see these states. I don't know where the scroller is at. Yeah, we can always undo what we did in Tableau, so that's the best part. Now let's drag the states pill again so that we can have a perfect map in the screen right now. Yeah, I would like to not to mess with it again. It's it's pretty good right now. Let's keep it as it is. Now let's quickly get back to our presentation and check out our next query. So find the highest death rates at international level. So we are basically going to find which nation or the country has the highest death rates, and which is the country with the least amount of death rates, so which is the safest country. Now let's get back to Tableau. Now we're not going to mess with this particular sheet. Let's create a new sheet. Let's rename the sheet as highest death rates. International, INTL. Let's enter. So the sheet got renamed successfully. Let's drag in country. And let's drag in confirmed cases. So we have a map over here. So Tableau basically kind of selected the map as default. We can drag the deaths, and now we can actually change this to a text chart. Now let's drag the measure names into rows, so we have a little bit more, sorted kind of data. So you can see we have the confirmed cases over here and death rates here. Now if we kind of sort it in the descending order, so the order is being changed now. So we have our charts processed by Tableau for a better visual. So our chart got rearranged or ordered in the descending order. So with that, we have the highest, deaths and confirmed cases in US. So we can even do that using a parameter where you can create the top 10 or top 5 nations with highest confirmed and death values. So for that, you can drag both. Oh no, you need to create a parameter. I think it's not required over here. Let's continue with the next sheet, or you can just simply duplicate this. Since the dataset is a little huge, it takes a little bit of time. Now let's rename this. Now let's rename this sheet. It's still taking a little bit of time. Now I think we can rename it least death rates. So now for that, we're gonna rearrange it in the ascending order. So after sorting and changing some layouts, we have the least number of cases or death rates in the country called Makkah, where we have least number of deaths and least number of confirmed cases. So with that, let's move into the presentation mode again. And in the presentation mode, we have our next query that says, can we find the variation in COVID-19 cases around the world? So for that, let's create a new sheet again.
If getting your learning started is half the battle, what if you could do that for free? Visit SkillUp by Simplilearn. Click on the link in the description to know more.
So after changing some arrangements, or by making an ascending order arrangement and changing the layout or the orientation and everything, we have our final result, which states that we have the least number of deaths and confirmations of COVID-19 in the country of Afghanistan. So Yeah, so we have the pretty well sorted, arranged data over here on the screen. Now let's get back to the presentation mode, and in the presentation mode, the next query that we have to deal with is, can we find the variation in COVID-19 cases around the world? Yeah, we can do that. So let's get back to Tableau and create a new sheet. Let's rename the sheet as variation of C19. Yeah, it's done. So to find out the variation of COVID-19, we might want to use the boxes and whiskers chart. Let's select the country or region pill from dimensions and confirm from measures. Let's hover over to the show me tab and select the box and whisker plot. Yeah, so you can see that we just have one box or whisker over here. When you see something like this happening on your sheet, then directly head over to analytics and uncheck the aggregate measures. So we have this kind of visualization. Maybe we forgot something, so we forgot the country or region to be placed in columns. So when you place it in the columns section, then you find out all the countries and the variation of COVID-19 in their region. Now let's sort it in the descending order so that we can find out the maximum variation which is happening in France. So of course there are less number of confirmed cases, but there is a lot of variation which states that they have something wrong with the climatic conditions or the weather conditions there. Yeah, we have a larger confirmations in or larger cases in US, but there is some data which shows that France is leading in some variation. Yeah, so since we are calculating the variation of the confirmation of COVID-19 presence, we have France in the first place, where it shows that there is a lot of variation in the confirmed cases in France rather than US. Yeah, that's how we can find the variation of presence of COVID-19 in a particular country. So with that, let's move into the next query. So the next query is, can we forecast the sheet of future and reference of COVID-19 presence? Yes, we can do that. Let's get back to Tableau. For that, let's create a new sheet and rename it as forecast of COVID-19 presence. So the sheet got renamed successfully. Now we'll select the observation date from the dimensions and confirmed fill from measures. So we'll use them, drag it to columns and the confirmed from, yeah. Now we're going to change this. Okay, there is something wrong with the observation date. So for that, let's select the observation fill and change the data type to date. Yeah, so far so good. Now let's select this to day. We can change that to year. Now let's select forecast option. Yeah, so this is how it's gonna be. So in the year of 2020, we had the confirmed cases around this number, which is 760,705,3464, so which is nearly 76,370 lakh. And in the 2021, the number got a little decreased, which is 17,130 lakh cases. And in the end of 2022, which is the forecast, we can see there is a little more drop. So it's a good sign that the COVID-19 is getting decreased. So this is the forecast of the COVID-19 presence in India. So we can change the path to step 1. The line is okay. The line is pretty good. No worries on that. So basically we've finished the queries on our presentation mode. So yeah, if we get back to the presentation mode, so all the queries on the COVID-19 data are finished. Now let's create a dashboard. Yeah, we have the dashboard right now, so we can change the layout of dashboard. Let me increase the width to 1320 and decrease the height to 70 or 760. So we have the entire screen right now. Now let's drag in the confirm cases of international level and the recovery cases of the international level. Yeah, now we have it. Okay, or let's keep it in the top and that in the bottom. The trend line of COVID in the international level and the highest death rates in the international level. It takes a little time. It's still taking a little bit more time. I don't know what's wrong. Okay, it should be done in some time. Let's wait. It's basically taking a lot of time because we have a lot of data in that particular sheet. Let's kind of change that a little. Now let's change the sheet to yeah. Or we can just remove this from the dashboard and select the least death rate or the top 10 least death rates. So we have the sheet right over here. We have the top 10 ones only here. Yeah, this is good. So this is how we can have the dashboard. And now let's create another dashboard for Indian results. So again, let's change the dimensions of the screen. Yeah, it's pretty good. Now let's take the confirm cases in India and drop it over here, and recovery cases in India and drop it over there, and trend lines in India over here, and Indian states, and the forecast somewhere over here. And if we get back to the dashboard 1, we can even add the forecast data or the variation data somewhere over here. And we can always change the height so that it's a bit more visible. So we can rename the dashboard C19 International Dashboard, and this one as C19 Indian Dashboard. Yeah, so with that we have finished the first project based on the COVID-19 dataset. Now we'll continue with the next dataset, that is the airline dataset. So now we are in the second project, and the second project is about the airline dataset. And in this particular dataset, we're going to take the insights, which are as follows. What are the total number of flights which are taking off in a day from the San Francisco airport? And followed by that, we have the next query, which reads out, find the busiest day of San Francisco airport. We'll be finding out the top 5 busiest days in the San Francisco airport, and followed by that we'll also find what are the total number of flights per day in a month. Then we'll find out what are the top 10 busiest flight routes. Then we'll find out what are the top 10 longest flight routes from San Francisco airport. Then we have to represent the flights flying outside the San Francisco towards different parts of the world using a map chart. So these are the queries that we'll be executing in our second project. Without further ado, let's get back to the Tableau. So now we are back on the Tableau dashboard. So let's select our dataset for today. So our dataset is somewhere here. Yeah, this is the air travel dataset we were looking for. Now we got our air travel dataset loaded onto Tableau. So remember I said about the interpreter. I'll select that and show all the. Okay, let the query execute. Yeah, so the interpreter query got executed. Now the data has been cleaned. We can review the results by clicking on review results option over here. We have another query executing now. So basically this query will take us to the Microsoft Excel sheet where our cleaned data is readily available for us. There you go. You can see that the red colored data is the data that is interpreted as column headers or field names. The green color one is the data interpreted as values in your data source. So it looks something like this. So we have our data fine over here, just looking fine. Now when you come into the route column, you have San Francisco to the other parts of the world. For example, we have Los Angeles here, etc., etc. But we don't have a separate field for origin and destination. So what we'll be doing is we'll be splitting this particular column right away here. So let's navigate to the last column, which will show us the route. So you can right click this and select the option of split, which will basically split it into 2 halves, which will give us the from destination or the origin of the airplane and to or the destination of the plane. So from, to, or the origin, destination fields we have right now over here. You can see that. So far so good. So let's quickly begin with our worksheet. Now we are on the worksheet right now. So what was our first query? So our first query was to find the total number of flights in a day. So for that we have a simple step. So basically we'll have a particular number of rows, right? For the dataset what we've selected, we will have some thousands of datasets. So each and every row is actually a flight. So what we will do is just create a calculated field and just name it as number of rows. Okay, since we are trying to calculate the total number of flights, let's kind of not name it as rows. Instead we'll name it as flights, and inside the calculated field just write 1 and it should be done. So you can see the number of flights just over here. Just hover down the text and we'll have the number over here. So this is the total number of flights per day which takes off from the San Francisco airport. Let's kind of increase the text size so that it's a bit more visible. Yeah, that should be it. Let's rename the sheet. From here I would do the renaming from here because it's a little simple. Total number of flights. Yeah, That should be it. Now let's get on to the presentation mode again. Now let's execute the second query. Find the busiest day at San Francisco Airport. So to execute the second query, let's just simply duplicate the sheet and rename the sheet as busiest. Okay, we can actually schedules of flights, or no, not schedules of flights, number of flights, or we can rename this as flights taking off. So when we get the count of flights taking off, then we can actually find the date which was really busy, like the date with the maximum amount of flights taking off. That would be the busiest day. So the data type is date by default. That's great. Now let's drag it to columns. Now the sum of numbers at this place. Analysis, let's uncheck this to get a map. Let's make it by month, or day. Okay, we don't need this. We don't need this. We don't need this as well. Now we have a chart over here. Let's change it to scatterplot maybe. Yeah, so we have the chart. No worries on the scatterplot thing. It's really a scatterplot. No worries on that. So right now we need to find out the busiest days. So for that we might want to drag the date into filter, and let's select the individual dates. Select next, and inside the top we have the we need to select by field, and now we have the top 10 number of flights. We need the top 10 flights. So let's select apply. We needed top 1, but why not top 10? You will select top 10 for that. Now we have the scatter plot on my sheet right now. So let's kind of arrange it in the descending order. This shows the highest number of flights, or okay. We need to change this value to sum. Yeah, it is sum. So yeah, I got to know where we made a mistake. So inside analysis we were supposed to aggregate the measures so that we can get the sum of number of flights. Now we have the total number of flights. Now let's quickly arrange this. Now we have the 3166, 3200, 3295. Yeah, so 3295 happens to be our busiest day in the year 2020, that is the 6th March, which had the maximum number of flights taking off. So we can actually make a set of these. The set of these, which happens to be in the March. So March happens to be the busiest month for San Francisco Airport. So with that, we have finished the second query. Now let's create a new sheet for our third query. Let's get back to the presentation. And the third query reads that what are the total number of flights per day in a month? So for that, let's get back to Tableau. Let's try to rename it total flights in a month. Done. So for that, let's select date and drag it to columns, and let's make it to month. Let's remove this. Let's remove this. Let's remove this as well. Now let's check it to day, and now number of flights. So automatically we have a line chart, and we have the flights taking off from March 1st to March 31st, which happens to be the busiest month for San Francisco Airport. Now let's just tick the show mark label so that we have the number of flights taking off every day. So as we got the result in the previous sheet, 290 or 3,295 flights on the date of 6th March, or is it 3rd March maybe? Yeah, that happened 6th March. That happened to be the busiest day of San Francisco Airport. Now let's get back to the presentation and check the fourth query. So the fourth query reads, what are the top 10 busiest flight routes? For that, let's get back to Tableau again. Let's rename the newly created sheet busiest routes. Now the sheet is being replaced or renamed. Now to find out the top busiest routes, we need a calculated field to remove the effects of San Francisco Airport first. So create a calculated field, and we can name it as busiest route, busy. And now inside the calculated field we need an if condition. Then if route 1 split 1 is equals to SFO, then route 2 split 2 else route 1. And yeah, the calculation is valid. Let's apply and OK. Now we have the newly created calculated field somewhere here. I will drag that into rows, and now we'll drag the number of flights to columns. So there we go, we have the bar chart over here. Let's rearrange it in descending order so that we get the descending order. Now we needed the top 10 or top busiest routes. For that, let's drag busy into filters, select top, and by field we have top 10. Let's just select apply and OK, and we have the top busiest routes from San Francisco Airport, or SFO. Now let's get back to the presentation mode, and in the presentation mode the next query is, which are the top longest flight routes from SFO? So to find out the longest routes, we'll create a new sheet and rename it as busiest, no, not busiest, longest routes. Yeah, the sheet is renamed, and you can see that we have geometry coordinates 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, and 1, 1. So these 1, 1 and 1, 0 coordinates basically provide the origin information, and 0, 0 and 0, 1 provide the destination information. So we'll be creating a calculated field for that. Now let's create a calculated field. So let's rename the calculated field as origin, and inside the origin we'll make use of make point, and inside make point we'll write geometry coordinates 1, 1 and geometry coordinates we'll need the geometry coordinates 1, 1 and geometry coordinates 1, 0 separated by comma, and done. So we have the origin. Now let's create another for destination. We are creating a calculated field, destination, and inside destination we are going to use the same make point and geometric coordinates 0 0 comma geometric coordinates 0 1 and select apply. Okay. Now the origin and destination are created. Now we need to create another calculated field for distance. So we'll write it as distance, and inside that we'll use the distance function, and we'll write origin comma destination, and we'll represent the distance using kilometers. And select apply. Okay. Now we have the newly created distance measure in the measure section. Now we'll drag the busy into columns and distance into rows. Okay, we made something. Oh, there's no problem. We can actually change the orientation. And now let's rearrange it in the form of descending order. And now we have the distance sorted in the descending order, but there is a small change. We have to change the sum to average. So once you change that, you want to arrange it again. Now we have the BLR, Bangalore, as the farthest airport from SFO. Yeah. Now we might want to drag the busy into filters again. Now we have the top 10. Apply. Okay, so we have the top 10 longest routes from SFO. So with that we have finished our 5th query. Let's get back to presentation mode. And the 6th query: represent the flights flying outside SFO towards different parts of the world. Yeah, that can be done. Let's get back to Tableau again. Now for the 6th query, let's create a new sheet. Let's name it as map flights from SFO. Okay, so for that let's select the latitude and longitude and select a map. So we have the map right here. Now let's change that to map. Yeah, it's in the map section by default. Let's create a calculated field called lines. So we are basically using lines to represent the flights taking off from SFO. So I'll name it as line, or we can name it as flights line. Okay, and inside the calculated field, let's type in make line, and so inside the field let's make use of make line function, and inside that let's write an origin and separated by comma destination, and the calculation is valid. Apply. OK. Now we have the newly created flight line over here. Now we'll drag that flight line to detail. Now once we drag that flight line to the detail, we have the lines or flights taking off from SFO to different parts of the world. Now we can make it look a bit more appealing or more informative by dragging the routes, or into detail. So we have the details of routes, and we can even drag the distance into detail. So when we hover over to the line, we'll have the route and the distance as well. Yeah, so that's how it is done. Now we're basically done with all the queries. Now let's create a dashboard. So now let's kind of arrange the dashboard size convenient to our monitor. So I'll increase it to 1320 width and decrease the height to 760. So that's the proper size what I was looking for. Now we'll drag the details into the sheet. Longest routes. We have the flights taking off, busiest routes, longest routes, and total flights into here. Now it looks more readable. Fine, so we have the busiest routes, we have the longest routes, we have the flights taking off in the month of March. The busiest month was the March and the busiest day was 6th of March. I don't know what was so special on that day. If you know it, please let me know in the comment section below. And yeah, so totally we created a dashboard. Now let's rename the dashboard as SFO Flight Data Dashboard. And we are done. So we are done with the second project. Now let's get back to our presentation and let's check the last project, that happens to be the space missions dataset. So now we are in the third project, which is based on space missions dataset. So using this particular dataset, we're going to get some insights which are based on the queries on my screen right now. So we're going to find out what are the average temperature details of the launch sites, what are the average wind speed details of the launch sites, what are the average humidity details of the launch sites. So we need all these to before launching a satellite or a rocket into space. Everything needs to be in ideal condition. So followed by that, we have what are the different varieties of launch vehicles used by different companies. So there are a lot many companies. Few are from government sector, few are from private sector. For example, USA military satellites belong to government, and private satellites like SpaceX, yeah, and few others. Next we have what is the mission status of the company. So we have a list of satellites launched already, right? So we need the mission status of that particular satellite. Is it a successful launch, or was there some failure record or something like that? Next, at the last query, we have the track records of launch sites. So what are the track records? So what are the successful launches? What are the failure launches? What are the satellites launched by different companies, etc., etc.? We'll have a complete track record of that, of all the launch sites which are available in our dataset. Now, without further ado, let's get back to Tableau and start the project. So we are on Tableau. Now we're going to extract the dataset. So the dataset we need is the space missions dataset. You can get this in the Kaggle, or you can even have the access to this dataset from the description box below. Select open to open the data. So yeah, the data got successfully loaded. Again, use the interpreter, and it's a good habit of using the interpreter to clean your data and make everything understandable or look understandable. Show all the answers, everything is fine. So we're good to go with the dataset what we have in our Tableau right now. Now with that, let's get back to the first sheet. Now let's check the first query that we have in our presentation. What are the average temperature details of launch sites? So for that, let's create a new sheet. Yeah, it's created. Rename it as AVG temperatures. Or launch site temperatures. So now we need the launch site and select the temperature, and hover over to the show me tab, and let's select the bubbles chart. So now you can see the temperature is in the sum, but we don't need the sum here. We need to change that to average. Now we have the average temperatures of the launch sites. Now let's kind of select the label, show marks here. So we can do one more thing. We can drag the temperature onto the label. Now we have the temperature here. Now let's again change the measure to average. Now we have the average temperatures of the launch sites in Fahrenheit. Yeah, that's pretty well. Now let's get back to the presentation, and the next query is what are the average wind speed details of the launch sites. Let's get back to Tableau again. Let's create a new sheet, launch site wind speeds. Now let's drag the launch site into columns and wind speed from measures into rows, and you can see automatically we have a bar chart, but to make it a little bit more readable, let's select the boxes and whiskers chart. Yeah, you know what to do now. Go to analysis, uncheck the aggregate measures options, and let's drag the launch site again onto columns. Now we have the different box and whiskers for different sites. So let's kind of arrange it. Yeah, so the wind speeds at Kennedy Space Center are here, 20 miles, and 23 at Vandenberg, and Marshall at 9. Yeah, so this is the wind speeds at different launch sites. Now let's get back to the presentation mode, and now we have to find the humidity details of launch sites. So let's get back to Tableau. Now we are back on Tableau. Let's rename it humidity launch site. Now let's select the launch site and humidity, then a pie chart. The pie chart is really small, so we can select the entire view. Now we have the sum of humidity, but we need the average humidity. And now let's drag humidity onto label and launch site to label. Now we have the detailed humidity. No, we need to select the measure to average again, and here to average again. Yeah, so we have the humidity percentage of launch sites on the pie chart over here. So with that we are done. Now let's get back to presentation again. Now our fourth query, which states that what are the different varieties of launch vehicles used by different companies. For that, let's get back to Tableau. Now let's create a new sheet. Launch vehicle details. Yeah. Now this query is pretty straightforward. Select company and vehicle type, and we should be done. So there we go. We have the company name and vehicles used for the launching of satellites process. Now let's get back to the presentation mode. Let's select the next query. What is the mission status of companies? Now let's get back to Tableau. Let's create a new sheet and rename it as mission status. Now we are back on Tableau. Now let's select the company, drag that to columns, and mission status to columns, and we'll select one parameter from measures so that we can get a good bar chart, side-by-side bar chart. And now we can drag the company to color so that we can have different colors for different companies. So we have the mission details. So SpaceX found a maximum success in the recent days and little failures, and yeah, Boeing found good success as well and some failures. So these are the mission status of different companies and different satellites as well. So we have even US Air Force here faced some satellites here, some failures in some satellites. It's okay. So now let's get back to presentation mode. Now the sixth query is track records of launch sites. Okay, we had the payload as sum, so we change it to count, distinct count. So now we have a better observation of failures and successes over here. So as we discussed in the sixth query, now we need to find the track records of launch sites. Now let's create a new sheet, rename it as track records. And now let's drag the company to columns and mission status to columns again, and now let's drag the launch site. Yeah, I think we might want to drag the mission status to rows. Yeah. Let's click on text. Now let's drag the space missions count to color and space mission count to labels. Now let's use this one. Yeah. Now we have the stats or the track records of different space centers or launch sites, and we have the failures and success rates over here. Yeah, so basically we have done the last sheet or last query executed. Now let's create a new dashboard. As we always do, change the resolution according to the monitor we have. So I'm going to use 1030p. And height as 760. Now let's drag the sheets. So we have the launch temperatures, launch wind speeds, and launch site humidity at one place. Now the launch vehicles used, mission status, and the track records. So we'll kind of drag it here, and this one over here, this little bit over here, this one over here. So now we can actually, select the track records of Cape Carnival. We have the site temperature, we have the site humidity, we have the site wind speed, and the track records of that particular site, and launch vehicles launched, mission status, everything on one single dashboard. So that's how you make use of dashboards in real time. So with that, we have come to an end of this particular tutorial based on Tableau Projects. So if you need the datasets used in this particular tutorial, or if you have any queries regarding the tutorial, or if you feel that we missed out something important, then please let us know in the comment section below. Until next time, thank you, stay safe, and keep learning.
Hi there, if you like this video, subscribe to the Simplilearn YouTube channel and click here to watch similar videos. To nerd up and get certified, click here.